Today's video is going to be on health anxiety and what I call the reassurance loop. It's something that appears to be a behaviour of anybody that I've met who has health anxiety. I believe it's something that probably comes up quite often with other trust issue disorders, like for example OCD, or any kind of anxiety where you need some reassurance to help you through the day. So I shall talk to you about the most common form of reassurance, and I will talk to you about the other kinds of reassurance as well, and talk to you about how they loop back around on themselves and serve no real purpose. So when we develop health anxiety, we have a tendency to become quite needy, and but for different reasons than to how we may have been needy in the past. I think everybody needs some comfort at some times, but it becomes quite a problem when you suffer from health anxiety. So what usually happens is we develop health anxiety and we develop these fears about symptoms and sensations. So what we usually do is we firstly turn to the people who live in our homes, our partners or family or flatmates possibly. And this is where we start the reassurance loop. So we become afraid about symptoms, and we go to those people closest to us and we say, "Oh, I've just found this. Is this normal?" And you do it once or twice, and you'll ask about things that you're worried about to do with symptoms, and you say, "I keep getting these really sharp pains. Do you think that it could be a brain tumour?" And obviously, because it's out of character for you, your friends show genuine concern and they reassure you that you're being irrational. And this is quite helpful, and it gives you a sense of relief that somebody's telling you that everything's okay. The problem being, once you begin asking them for reassurance too frequently, they start to realise that the reassurance doesn't really reassure you for long, and they start to suspect, because they see the pattern of your behaviour, that they start to get quite irritated by it and impatient and saying, "You've got a problem," which is true, and they don't know what that problem is, and that's the difficulty in that situation. So once you have used up their resources and you know that you can no longer go to them because they've lost patience with you, then what happens is we start to expand our network and start to contact people and speak to people that perhaps aren't quite as close. So we go to our friends or people that we bump into in the street, and they say to you, "How are you? I haven't seen you for a long time." And you say to them, "Oh, yes, I'm fine, except I've been having these terrible pains in my head. I'm worried it might be a brain tumour." And then the friend, because it's quite out of character for you, they show genuine concern, and they reassure you, and you feel slightly better, and you start to realise that they're a good place to get some reassurance from. So you build a relationship with them which is based on you requesting reassurance, them reassuring you, and then losing trust again and going back for more reassurance. These people, after a certain amount of times going to them and manipulating them for the sake of reassurance, the same happens as happened with your family, and they begin to become impatient with you and saying there's nothing wrong with you. And then once they finish saying that enough times, they start to say there is something wrong with you, but they don't know what it is, and they're correct, there is something wrong with you. It's just they don't have a name for it at that point. So then, because of the peer pressure from your friends and your family and the fact that you're driving them crazy, they provoke you to go and approach the doctor about it, not about the behaviour, but about the symptoms. So we go along to the doctor, and the doctor will say, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's probably just anxiety." And we go home and we feel a bit better, and we think it's okay. The doctor told me that it's just anxiety, and you think that that will be enough to make it go away if you just take better control of your anxiety. But obviously, you have a disorder, so that doesn't happen. So you start going back to your doctor as a source of reassurance. And your doctor is obviously showing concern, and he understands what you're going through, and he empathizes with you until yet again you've been to the doctor too many times, and he's given you reassurance every time, and that reassurance makes no difference to you. So then the doctor becomes impatient. And the doctor realizes at that point that you do have a problem, and he can recognize the problem, unlike your friends and family. He can recognize that you have health anxiety. So the doctor then says to you, you've got a problem. You need to go and see a psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist, and they send you for some kind of talking therapy. So at this point, you've probably upset all of your friends and your family, and you can no longer see the doctor because the doctor's no longer indulging you. So you think, well, I should go and I should go and see the therapist, but you don't actually put any belief in the therapist because you've been dealing with the fact that you believe it's symptom based. And you've been doing that for some time, and going along to see a therapist, you think to yourself, well, a therapist isn't a doctor. They don't know anything about medical problems. So why would I listen to them? So you use the therapist as basically just a means of communication, because you've cut off all of the communication that you had previously with friends and family, because you've changed your relationship with them. And it's become quite negative. So you get stuck into this loop of needing reassurance and not addressing the actual problem, which is health anxiety. And even though we're given therapy quite often to deal with that, most often with health anxiety sufferers, there is an absolute refusal to give them any credit as a person who could help us, simply because they're not doctors. Even though we don't trust doctors anyway, because it was the doctor that sent us to see a therapist, and we no longer trust our friends and family because they've lost patience with us and they would do anything just to shut us up, simply because we become stuck records and we keep repeating the same problem. They keep reassuring us, and it makes no difference. So this puts us into a difficult situation where we're back to square one, and we're looking for reassurance that there's nothing wrong. And as an ideal, what we want is somebody to float down from the heavens above and hand us a contract that says you will never become ill or die ever. And unless we get that piece of information that's proof to us that nothing will ever happen to us, we will keep seeking reassurance until somebody makes us feel that we're going to be okay. So what happens is, because we've upset so many people through needing the reassurance, we then try to covertly seek reassurance. So we'll be saying to somebody like our family, "Oh, did you hear about so-and-so? You know, he was having these strange things happen with his heart, you know, these strange palpitations. You know, do you ever get that?" In the hope that they will say to you, "Oh yes, I get that all the time," and you can reassure yourself about your own heart concerns. Or you could, there's lots of ways that you can covertly manipulate somebody telling you their feelings on health. It's very draining to them, and it's very draining to you, because they know that you're doing it. You know, they notice when you're sat watching TV and you say to them, "Have you ever noticed how sometimes you get these weird blobs go in front of your eyes?" and you'll wait for a reaction, and you'll say it as if it's just passing conversation, just something that you've noticed, in the hope that they would give feedback and you won't be blamed for asking about your health, because you weren't talking specifically about your health. You were just talking about a general phenomenon, but you have an agenda for that. So so that's how it tends to continue. And the thing is, when we seek reassurance, and we've used up all of our resources, we tend to start to want reassurance, knowing that the sources are no longer reliable because we've used all of our resources. So we will quite happily do anything to seek reassurance from anyone. And excuse me, my nose is itching. Even if that person is like friend and family, or friend or family, and we know that they are reassuring us without any medical basis for what they tell us, we don't really care, to be honest. We don't care at this point that there's no basis for their reassuring comments, because they don't know what's going to happen to us. They have no medical experience or history. So really speaking, what we're doing when we gain that reassurance, even temporarily, knowing that it won't work, we don't actually want reassurance that everything's going to be okay. We just want to hear that it's going to be okay. And we want it to be told to us, even if that's by a person that we know has no way of proving that we're going to be okay. So I think it would be more accurate to say that we don't seek reassurance. We seek the illusion of reassurance, whether or not it's based on truth or not. So if we're seeking something constantly that has no grounding in reality, and we just want to believe it regardless of whether or not it's true, then does it really serve a purpose in the first place? I think you'll find that if you stopped seeking reassurance, it would have the same outcome as when you do request reassurance. The only difference between the two is if you stop requesting reassurance, you're no longer putting your trust in somebody else with regards to your own body. The only way to regain trust in our bodies is to get that reassurance from our body giving us indicators, as opposed to external factors like friends, family and doctors. It is the lack of trust in your body that requires you to gain reassurance. So the whole thing goes round in a great big loop, and the only thing really to have come out of it is a breakdown in relationships with those around you, and less faith in yourself. And it's not actually going to help you when you know that you no longer even need reliable information. You just want a belief. So that's my suggestion. Try and stop all reassurance in any form. And I think you will notice that even though you've stopped doing it, you will feel the same as if you did do it, only you will have regained an element of trust in your own body. So please pop a comment down if you have any thoughts on the subject yourself or any experiences, and I would be very interested to hear them. Okay, until next time, bye-bye.